Thank you for joining us on Issues at Hand this morning. My name is Bruno Edgard, and we are having a very interesting discussion today, especially when it comes to the plight of senior house officers. Now, of course, Issues at Hand is proudly brought to you by Protea Hotel Entebbe, and you can get yourself the best in amenities such as wonderful food, wonderful hotel rooms, amazing conference halls, and very luxurious and very peaceful environment, especially when it comes to the lake shore. So you want to make your reservation and booking today and get yourself a wonderful experience at Protea Hotel Entebbe for you and for your family, because here on Church of Uganda Family TV we are all about family. And talking about family, we wouldn't be anywhere as regards the health of our families if it were not for health workers, and definitely many of us wouldn't be able to get the treatment that we are required to get if it weren't for senior house officers. So we are going to get into that discussion. I know many of you are asking yourself, who are senior house officers? Are they from State House? Are they from Parliament? You will be surprised when you find out that they are actually health workers who are doing a valiant effort when it comes to providing health services in Uganda. And we are going to talk about the fact that they have decided to be the first this year to come out with an industrial action. What does this mean for the health sector? What does it mean for government? And how will this be resolved? That's what we are discussing today on Issues at Hand. Now, with me to discuss this issue is Dr. Amakun Emmanuel, who is a senior house officer from the Department of Oral Surgery. He is also a mobilization and publicity committee member of a group of senior house officers. And you are very welcome to Issues at Hand this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, and good morning, viewers. As you have already heard, my name is Dr. Emmanuel Amakun. That other name always disturbs people. It is Amakun, a senior house officer, oral and maxillofacial surgery.
So tell us, so that we understand and we don't get confused, who are senior house officers and what do they do?
Senior house officers are actually medical officers, or you can also say dental officers, because both medical and dental. But these are people who already graduated, got registered to practice as doctors, but are now specializing. So they are training to become pediatricians, like those who take care of the children, gynecologists, ENT specialists. I think those are the ones that commonly people know. But that also includes people like us who do oral and maxillofacial surgery. So these are actually qualified doctors who are specializing. So the name is just given to differentiate, because we also have junior house officers who are commonly referred to as interns. Then we have senior house officers. So among the responsibilities of senior house officers, we have doing the major specialized surgical procedures and treatments in the hospital, but also it includes to mentor and to train interns and medical students, because interns have just graduated, they are qualified doctors. The only thing they don't have at that point is enough experience, and that's where we come in to mentor them and do skill transfer. So basically that is what a senior house officer is.
And can you take us a bit more through the duties of a senior house officer? And you spoke about the fact that they are very educated and have to go through a lot of training in order to become one, and some of the, if I may say, the benefits that are accrued to a senior house officer.
The responsibilities, apart from the studies, our responsibilities include actually full-time working in a hospital, and not just in a hospital. It is usually a national referral hospital or a regional referral hospital where there are specialized services, because we offer only specialized services. Okay, mostly. That's why we are there. So that means you have to wake up in the morning. Yes.
The question I want is what's the difference between does it mean every medical officer who offers specialized services is a senior house officer? Are there those who may be offering specialized services who are not senior house officers?
Yes, we have those who are not, but now those are the ones who have finished specializing. They have already graduated with their respective masters. But those are extremely few. So that's where we come in. We offer the service as we train. So we offer that specialized service to cover the gap, because Ministry of Health did a study and they found out that there is a gap of specialists in this country, in regional and national referral hospitals, of over 70%. So that is the gap we are covering, the 70% of the missing specialists. But we have few who are actually recruited by the government. So those are the only ones who are not senior house officers. The rest of us who are still in training are senior house officers. And
the rest who are not recruited by government can be recruited by private facilities, not so?
Senior house officers are actually not recruited. You are just put on the payroll to offer a service as you train. In fact, some people have termed it as government taking advantage of students. But we don't look at it that way, because we want to master. That is the whole point. But if we were to do only what we are required to do as students, it would be very small. But right now, we are talking about a situation where a senior house officer starts work at around 4 a.m. and you sometimes work 24 hours. You don't have time to go and rest. And so this situation, one time in a meeting at Imperial Royal where the president attended, is where the president himself in his own words said, senior house officers offering that kind of service under the situation they are in without compensation equals modern day slavery. And he said these senior house officers should be duly compensated. So after that, we had another meeting in 2021.
When was that meeting at Imperial Royal?
The one of Imperial Royal was, can I just check? Get the correct date? It was in 2016 with His Excellency the President when he made that statement. So in 2021, we had another meeting that was chaired by the Honorable Minister of ICT, Dr. Chris Mariomos. And they made resolutions. And I can give you a copy of the resolutions. And Resolution 6 stated that a senior house officer should be compensated a gross amount of 2.5 million, which is equal to about 1.8. The gross is 2.5, but you get 1.8. And this man has been coming until last year, August, and for some residents, October. It stopped coming, and we started wondering why.
So is that now because one of the main issue we're discussing today is this industrial action, according to a press release by senior house officers who have come out to say enough is enough. We want this issue of compensation sorted out. Is this why now we have an industrial action? And take us through this industrial action. What are senior house officers saying, and what has been government's response to the industrial action so far?
Now, this industrial action, surely we shouldn't have just jumped on it, because we do not want this kind of engagement with the government. But unfortunately, we are here because we tried other means and failed. For example, in December, we wrote to the Director General of Health Services asking what is happening. It is now December, but some of our colleagues have never got this allowance since August. Others since October. We never got a response. Then again in January, on January 18th, we wrote to the ministry asking about the same thing. Still, we never got a response. Now, 2 weeks before we started this industrial action, we tried following up with calls, with texts. All that never happened. Then, out of a desperate measure, a section of us tried to go, because we got information that the officers that we need are actually around in office. We tried to ambush them, so to say, because we tried to secure an appointment with them, but it never happened. So we went and literally waited for them. We waited for over 3 hours. We never got a chance to meet them. So then we decided to call for a meeting for all SHOs and say, now what do we do? Remember, SHOs are not officers who are salaried. We have no salary. It is that allowance that we depend on. So when it is not coming, you know what that means. 5-6 months is not coming, and you're supposed to report to work, you're supposed to be eating, you're supposed to be paying rent, you're supposed to transport yourself.
Yet, in light of the duties again, senior house officers, as I have come to understand, are very critical, especially like you said, many of them have very tough shifts in terms of starting work at 4 a.m. and then having night shifts as well as they go through wards to ensure that the patients have the necessary services.
Yes, actually that is not that some of them, that is a typical schedule of an SHO. You wake up before everybody else because you have to do a ward round, you have to go to theater, you have to do post-surgical reviews and all those things, make sure prescriptions are done, make sure that the right lab tests are requested, the results have come out, because these senior consultants are few. So they only expect you to call them when the case is beyond you, because they cannot attend to all the cases. So that is a typical schedule of an SHO. Now, when this allowance was not coming, we had that meeting. And all the SHOs, I have here a copy of the recommendations and resolutions signed by all the chief residents of different universities. Maybe what I didn't mention earlier is that this industrial action is for all SHOs, because now we have Mbarara University, we have Makerere University, we have Bustema University, Kabale University that have postgraduate medical students. So we all agreed that if we cannot secure a formal meeting with the ministry, maybe this is the only way we can get the ministry to talk to us. But surprisingly, even up now, they haven't said anything to us. We hear a few things here and there through the media, but they have not directly communicated to us. We don't know what they are doing.
So when did the industrial action start, or when is it slated to start?
It started already on Monday at midnight. So as we speak right now, SHOs are not offering their services. The services that we were supposed to cover right now are being attended by the few non-SHO specialists. And we feel their pain because they are not used to this kind of chaos. They are few and patients are many, but we have nothing to do because we are hungry, and we know very well that a hungry doctor is not safe.
That is true. And take us through some of the recommendations and resolutions that were shared by the team of SHOs that met together to institute this industrial action.
The first and probably the most important or the immediate recommendation, we say, government or Ministry of Health should pay us all our areas to date, then we resume to work. The reason why we are insisting is that this money has been coming since 2021. It is in the budget. So this is a recurring expenditure. There is no way Ministry of Health can tell us there is no money to pay you, because they budgeted, they allocated, and Ministry of Finance release the money. So we are asking, where is this money? It is only fair that they pay us. But also, there are other things that pain us as HSOs. The issue of supplies. Because, in fact, what worsened or what created this pain, made it the pain worse, is even when you're not receiving your allowance, you go to theater, for example, and they bring a mother who is bleeding. This mother does not have money or whatever to cater for herself. She needs a surgery and she needs, for example, something as simple as sutures, but the sutures are not there. Normally, if our allowance was coming, we can actually pick in our pocket and say, give 3,000 to maybe the attendant, run and buy what? The sutures. But now, in this situation, we don't even have that. And there are no supplies. So we are saying, in addition to paying us, we want the Ministry of Health to make sure that NMS and whoever else is responsible in securing these supplies is facilitated to make sure there are adequate supplies, so that we do our work happily. You can go and get frustrated because you want to do something and you can't do it. And then the other recommendation we are giving Ministry of Health is that we have a draft of the SHO policy, which has very well laid out strategies of avoiding this kind of things, like strikes and what. We need this policy fast-tracked and implemented. This will avoid a lot of issues. Then there is another excuse that Ministry of Health always brings, that, you know, your numbers are fluctuating, they go up and down. By the way, for our own case, the numbers are less than what they have, less than the number of the people they have been paying. But even if we say that, okay, your concern is genuine, that numbers are fluctuating, we have a proposal that we have always fronted, and we say, let the Ministry of Health liaise with the Ministry of Education. Because they know that in this year, we are going to, they make projections, we are going to have this likely number of postgraduates. In fact, this strategy or this recommendation we're giving, including the interns, because it is easy. In fact, for interns it would have been easier, because you know how many students have been admitted in first year in medical school. So they are going to graduate after 5 years and go to internship. Then for us, it is still the same thing. Ministry of Health can easily get information from the universities where these postgraduates are and plan accordingly. That is one of the recommendations. If they can liaise, this issue can be sorted. Then we have another recommendation. We have this issue of when the allowance was still coming. Ministry of Health was saying senior house officers who are training under private universities should not get this allowance. But remember, they may be students of a private university, but they are offering service in a public hospital. I think we all remember Dr. Muhammad Ali, may his soul rest in peace, the surgical SHO who died of Ebola in Muwende. That gentleman was a senior house officer from a private university, KIU, but he was offering services in Muwende. So why don't you give him an allowance? So we are telling Ministry of Health, this discrimination is not right. If somebody is offering a service and you're giving somebody an allowance, let all people who give that kind of service get similar allowance. And it is not a lot of allowance we are asking. We are asking for an allowance which is the same as the one they are comfortably paying our junior colleagues, the interns.
Yes, and that's very interesting, because at the end of the day, it's about the service being rendered and to whom and where, rather than which university you're coming from. Because whether you're from a private university, whether you're from a university in Uganda or not, you can still be part of the public industry in terms of serving in a public office as well. So that shouldn't be a matter of concern from the government.
Exactly. And then we also have a suggestion to the Ministry of Health, and we are saying, let the Ministry of Health liaise with the Ministry of Education. Because remember, they may be students of a private university, but they are offering service in a public hospital. So that is one of the recommendations we are giving Ministry of Health, and we are saying, let the Ministry of Health liaise with the Ministry of Education. Because remember, this issue of allowance Why don't we have a situation where, because it is done elsewhere, where a senior medical officer is actually put in the structure of public service, because they are offering service in a public hospital. Put them at the level of senior medical officer, such that when you are paying other people, you pay everybody. Then there will be no chaos. Everybody gets paid. If salaries are delayed, they delay for everybody. That would be also a good suggestion. But the most urgent one is they should get the money and pay us our arrears, because we know the money is there somewhere. We don't know where exactly, but we know it was released.
You might say that, but I'm sure you must be aware that right now government is struggling a bit. They are strapped for cash, and that's why they are thinking about even undergoing budget cuts in the coming financial year. And in light of this, do you think they will be able to pay these arrears, yet they are struggling to get funding for the budget?
You see, the thing is this: we are not ambushing the ministry. As I told you, this is something that was implemented in 2021. This is something which is in the budget. If it was an ambush, like an emergency, maybe like the way we had Ebola, we would say that now ministry is struggling to get the money. But this money was in the budget which was passed. So where did it go? And Ministry of Public Service, of Finance, we read all newspapers and we watch news. They were saying the other day, there is no government entity that is demanding us. We have released all the money that they requested for. So our question is, if this money was released to Ministry of Health, where is it? If it was an ambush, we would understand that, okay, now government is struggling. But this one is not the case. It was passed, it was allocated, the vote is there, the money is there. So where is it? It's the only question we want answered.
And you said currently the Ministry of Health is not coming forward with any response as to this industrial action.
Right now, they are not talking to us. They are talking in the media, as we see. In fact, I had a clip in one of the radios where the permanent secretary, Dr. Diana Atwine, was saying, I feel the pain of the SHOs. I know what they are going through. But we cannot just pick the money and give them. There are procedures, which we understand. Of course, there are procedures. And they knew that they're supposed to pay us. Then the procedure should have started a long time ago. But I'm not really sure if she means it when she says that I feel the pain of the SHOs. Maybe she actually feels it. But my question is, if you really feel the pain, why are you not doing something about it? Because it is within her power to do something about it to alleviate this pain.
Which procedures are those? Because I understand if SHOs have been receiving this allowance since 2021, the same process should continue as normal. Because at the end of the day, you are asking for arrears from August. So which processes are these, if you may take us through them? Because it doesn't make sense as the process still. Is there something that has changed about the process? Could it be as well on the issue of numbers that there is an increase in SHOs and they're not ready to fully cover the increase in numbers, like the Ministry of Health has been saying?
Actually, the issue of processes, according to me, is an excuse. Because if they are paying civil servants through the same process, why are we not being paid? There is no unique process. It is just the same. Because whatever is in the budget, whoever is supposed to be paid through that budget is paid through the same way. That is what we are asking. But about the numbers, we are actually, this year, less by 15 SHOs. We are 692. We are less. So we expected the Ministry of Health to have paid us easily. If we were more, we would say, actually the Ministry of Health has a point. We are more. So how do we go about it? But we are less. So what other reason are we having? Other than just directly refusing to pay us? Because that's what we see. they haven't given us any communication why they haven't paid us. So it leaves us to assume that they just don't want to pay us.
What other recommendations has been put forth by the team that came up with the industrial action?
The other recommendation is that we need, for example, Ministry of Health to be clear with their communications. Be clear with us. We know that we are their juniors, but we are colleagues in providing a service, because honestly speaking, Ministry of Health will not achieve its targets without SHOs or without medical workers. So when we ask them something, they should give us a response. Whether it is negative or positive, we need to know why something is not going the way it has been going. But Ministry of Health decides that they are not talking to us, and they leave us no option. But also there are other issues that we were saying among the other recommendations, that senior house officers, okay, Ministry of Health sometimes has scholarships for training, and we said, and some of these things would help us. Can we streamline these scholarships and we have postgraduate medical training where people can get these scholarships fairly, other than others not having and others having 2 scholarships, for example? Those are some of the things. We have a lot, but the most important thing is fast-tracking this SHO policy. It will solve a lot of issues. A lot of issues. If that is put in place and implemented, there will be no headaches for Ministry of Health, and there will be no headaches for SHOs, because we also want to do our work. We want to master and finish and leave. So we still emphasize they should pay us, or in future they should put us in public service structure as senior medical officers and streamline that.
What are you looking forward to seeing as part of this SHO policy, which will go a long way into ensuring that when it comes to senior house officers, their rights, especially as far as allowances and other things, shall be promoted by the policy?
One of the things we said is that Ministry of Health should be actively involved in regulating the number of not just SHOs, but medical students that go to medical school, so that they can say that, okay, we can take this number. But right now, they leave the universities to admit, then they come up with other issues. They can come, because we also had something, rumors, okay, we have not confirmed since Ministry of Health is not talking to us, but these are some of the things that we wanted to ask them. We had rumors that when they start paying, they are going to start giving allowance to SHOs who came back to specialize after spending a number of years. If you didn't spend those number of years in the field, then you came to specialize, then you will not be paid. It would be unfair to say something like that when somebody is already in training, specializing. But if Ministry of Health was actively involved, they can do things like that. They go to the university and say, this and this don't admit. Because right now, universities have their own criteria of admitting. They know who to admit and who not to admit. So when whoever is eligible for admission is admitted. But now these other issues of allowance and what are the ones that are making the Ministry of Health to come up with that kind of reasoning. Which we say that it would be okay if it was standardized, but not when somebody has already been in training and then you bring such suggestion when they are offering it. Because there is no difference between a service offered by an SHO who has spent 10 years in the field before coming to specialize, as compared to the one who spent 2 years in the field, then they come to specialize. When they go to theater, they do the same surgery, they see the same patients, and they do the same procedure. So what's the difference? For us, what we are saying, is that the allowance is for the service offered. Is the service being offered? If it is yes, then it deserves a compensation. It is just that simple. But that policy would capture such things, and then Ministry of Health would have a say on who is admitted and who is not.
Indeed, and thinking this side as far as patients are concerned, a lot of people may say, well, we understand the plight of senior house officers, but at the moment, there are patients who are really in need of the services that senior house officers have to provide. And of course, when such conversations come up, we always bring up the issue of the Hippocratic oath that you swore to protect and serve those who are in need of treatment. So have you left patients to an unwanted fate by putting down your tools?
Let me talk to Ugandans. Dear Ugandans, here is the thing. Okay, first of all, to answer your question directly, is that true, we have withdrawn our service, and this has an impact on the overall service. However, we also know that we haven't removed this. It's not that like all the doctors have left the hospital. We have those few specialists who are recruited by the government. We still have interns. And we have a few other medical officers that are recruited by the government. So those ones right now are attending to emergency services. Because when you are having industrial action of withdrawing your service, the most important thing is to make sure that the critical areas are covered. Those ones, we are aware they are being covered. The specialists who are there are overly stretched, as I told you, and we feel for them. And by the way, they also feel for us, because now you're having a colleague who is in theater, is feeling dizzy, and sometimes you have to take that water, the one which has sugar, we call dextrose, 5%, if you're feeling dizzy, because you slept hungry.
As a senior house officer?
Yes, you just have to take that water so that you can continue with the what? With the surgery. Otherwise, you might end up collapsing there. So those seniors are also feeling for us as we feel for them, but the emergencies are being covered, so that should not be a worry. It is the procedures that we consider to be elective, like the ones that can wait. Those are the patients who are not being attended to right now. So coming back to the oath, in fact that oath was revised. I don't know whether you are aware, but since you are a journalist, you must be knowing that the highest suicide rate in any profession is in medical practice. In fact, it is among the anesthesiologists, followed by medical officers. So, because of that, after they did the study and found out why, that oath was revised, and they inserted a clause in 2017 which says that a doctor must take care of his health, his own well-being, and make sure that he's fit to serve. In fact, let me read the actual a quote for you, because it would be interesting to note that. I think I've misplaced it, but when I get it, I will share with you. It says that a doctor must be, because when a doctor is not in his right state to serve, he's dangerous. If you are psychologically tortured, if you are in theater, and the landlord has told you today, if you don't bring my money, you'll find your things in the compound, and you are there, that you are trying to, which kind of surgery are you going to do? So that's why that clause was inserted in the Hippocratic oath. So it is not that we are against the oath, but you, the doctor, are you safe for public consumption? Right now, SHOs are not safe. They are hungry, they are broke, the children are, every time you go home, the child who was supposed to go to school, we're in week what? Of schooling. Our children are still at home. You have a wife because SHOs are not medical students from undergraduate. Most of us are married. And apart from that, failing to supply to provide for your own family, we also have dependents. We have our mothers in the village. There is no way your mother will call you that I don't have sugar, and then you say that now you see I don't have money. What? You are a doctor. Do you know how the population looks at a doctor? They think we have everything all together. Then you start saying, you know. So all that is torturing the SHO psychologically.
For us, doctor, what is the way forward now that the Ministry of Health is not seemingly ready to come to address this issue right now? What are the senior house officers planning to do to ensure that their needs are heard?
Well, I think what senior house officers are going to do is just straightforward, because we have no strength to work. We are not in the right state of mind to work. So this industrial action is going to continue until we see the money on our accounts, because we are also doing badly. We are doing terribly, terribly badly, because it's now, for some people it is 6 months. Because there is no way today you tell the landlord this, tomorrow you come up, you tell them you see the ministry, and then once we go back to work, even our landlord will see that, oh, they have gone to work. It means they have paid them. There is no other way you're going to tell them, now I don't have money, we went to work, but we haven't yet received the money. They will chase you out very fast. At least now when they see you around, they say, okay, maybe there's still hope. So this industrial action is going to continue until we see bank alerts. Then we can go. And by the way, because the ministry, we also had rumors that the ministry was saying, okay, we are going to first pay them 2 months, and then we convince them to go back to work. But the problem here is, if they pay you 2 months and you take that money and you give it out to the debts you already have, then it makes no impact. That's why we are saying, give us all our areas and we continue from there. The other reason why we cannot go to work, if Ministry of Health went through that means and decided to pay us 2 months, is because Ministry of Health has a bad history with SHOs. In fact, for SHOs from Makerere University, for example, they have a tendency never to pay you the first 2 months of the allowance, and you'll never see it. Our colleagues, the second years, right now from Mbarara University, they missed 6 months when they were in year 1, and they never got it. And Ministry of Health never explained where the money went to. So if they give us 2 months, and then we go back to work, just know that we have forgotten the rest. So because of that, we are skeptical. We try not to trust the words of the Minister of Health so much, more than the action. We want to see their action. We want to see the money in the accounts. We want to sort out these problems. We want to send our children to school. We want to buy food. We want to be able to transport ourselves to work and look like doctors. Right now, senior house officers are miserable. We don't look like doctors anymore because of the life that we are living. So Minister of Health should do the right thing. They know the right thing to do. And they have our money. Minister of Health, they have our money. Please give us our money. Why are you stuck on our money? Just give us our money and we go back to work and we serve Ugandans. Because the people who are suffering are the people that you should be serving. And for us, we want to serve them, but we are not in the right state to serve them.
And due to this, due to what has been happening, don't you think it is high time that senior house officers got together and made a union or an organization, a group of some kind, so that there is a powerful force to bring their requests forward and to ensure, for example, things like this don't happen again, or to ensure that this policy is passed by the Ministry of Health?
Yeah, now about the policy, we are actually talking to the Health Committee of Parliament. We are explaining to them how important it is. Because, you know, policies, some of those things may require constitutional amendments and what. So we have to go through the parliament. So we are explaining to them, and we are hopeful that because that committee has doctors, so they will easily understand what the policy entails and how good it will be. About the formalization of our group, so to say, that is also in process. We want to formalize it to make it an actual legal entity. Maybe it is one of the reasons why Ministry of Health is ignoring us. We don't know. But we don't expect Ministry of Health to ignore us, even if it is an individual who has a grievance. They should be able to listen.
Indeed. And so what are some of the other challenges that senior house officials face? Because it's important that we understand as a whole, so that even moving forward, not just in the arrears, in paying the arrears, but also moving forward, the Ministry of Health and other involved stakeholders can look to ensure that the working environment for senior house officers is optimum, especially when it comes to producing delivering services for those that need treatment.
Sincerely speaking, when our predecessors were training, they had what we call a doctor's village. Actually, it is still there, but it was built for a capacity maybe of about 60 doctors. But right now, Mulago only, it has over 500 SHOs. That is from year 1 to year 4, because some courses like mine, they take 4 years to finish. Now, that accommodation is not enough for everybody. So we're also suggesting, is it possible that the Ministry of Health will find a way of accommodating these senior house officers nearby, even if it is in single rooms nearby? Because we are working every hour, 24 hours. Let me tell you, the moment you try that you're going to put your head down, even if, because sometimes you go there and put your head down in the ward, you get a call immediately. So some people don't end up not even going away. So it would be better if you get those few hours that you somehow are not busy, you go and rest nearby, such that when they are called and it is always emergencies, because if it is not an emergency, an intern is a competent doctor who has already graduated. They can what? Handle very well. It is usually the emergencies that make the SHO to be called. And emergency needs, as you hear the word, emergency care. So that means that we should be nearby, we should be accessible. That alone can go a long way. Even now we wouldn't be talking about landlords if that was covered.
Indeed.
So if that can be done, that would be well and good. Of course, there are other things that we wish for, like for example, if lunch was provided for SHOs at the workplace, that would also be good, because we get energy and continue working, but none of those is there. So those are the other things we can talk about when this has been cleared, and when the ministry is willing to sit down with SHOs and address this for the good of all Ugandans.
And in concluding word, what would you like to say to the Ministry of Health and concerning this issue, and what would you like to say to Ugandans or watching right now as far as the plight of senior house officers is concerned?
Let me start with fellow Ugandans. Fellow Ugandans, we have not abandoned you. What we are doing is actually for your own good, because trust me, if we continued working in this state, we would lose more of our loved ones than we will save. So we encourage you and we urge you to support this cause. Support, and I'm sure some of the Ugandans who are watching can have access to these officers at the Ministry of Health. They can actually talk to them and explain to them that please sort out these people so that they go back to work and save lives of other Ugandans. And the other
Ministry of Health.
Ministry of Health and all other stakeholders. You know the right thing to do. You have been doing these things. What is the problem? We know the money is there. It was allocated. The vote is there. If it was not there, then it would be something else. The money is there. Just sort out this issue, pay us our arrears, and we move on. And we stop this pulling of the ropes, because we want to go back and work, and we want finish so that we come and fill those gaps that are present, that you, the Ministry of Health, put in your own report 70% gaps of specialists. Who is going to fill them? If us who are supposed to finish and come and fill them are not being facilitated to go through the course and come out. Please do the right thing.
Indeed, and for Ugandans, all Ugandans concerned, that's all of us, because we all enjoy the services that senior house officers provide. We pray that this industrial action comes to an end, that a solution is found, and so that senior house officers can go back to delivering wonderful services as far as helping patients get treatment is concerned. Because like you said, we very well need senior house officers. So Ministry of Health and other stakeholders, let's get to that table of dialogue so that we can find a solution to this issue. Thank you so much for coming on Issues at Hand today to address this issue, and hopefully the next time we're speaking, we'll be speaking in better terms, and we'll be talking about now the way forward, especially in terms of things like the policy. And thank you so much as well for joining this discussion today. Yes, very important issue to tackle, because there are many lives that are going to be affected, and of course for those who are not senior house officers and are specialists, they are now under the cosh because they have to fill in the gap that has been left by the senior house officers putting down their tools. But at the end of the day, this is now a ball that has been rolled into the court of the government, especially the Ministry of Health, to ensure that these areas are paid so that the senior house officers can get back to serving Ugandans diligently. Thank you once again for joining us. We shall return on Friday. For now, it's ciao. God richly bless you and enjoy this day.